Good day, everyone, and welcome to our Pro Training Technical webinar, Perimeter and Interior Roach Baiting, Building Better Cockroach Control Programs. Today, we'll learn how to identify the conditions that allow cockroaches to thrive, locate key harborage and moisture zones, implement effective inspection and sanitation practices, and maximize the performance of baiting programs. Mike Purcell, National Sales Manager, Eastern U.S. at Nisus Corp, will present. Before we start, I'd like to review a few items to help you participate in today's event. Note that you have joined this webinar in listen-only mode, which means you are muted. You can submit text questions by tapping the question icon at the top of the screen and typing them in. You may submit your questions at any time during the presentation, and we'll address them during the Q&A session at the end. Please note that we may not be able to answer all questions due to time constraints, but we'll do our best to cover as many as possible. Later today, you will receive a follow-up email with the webinar recording for your reference. With that, let me introduce you to today's speaker. Mike Purcell is Nisus's National Sales Manager for the Eastern United States. Mike oversees new sales initiatives in the field and provides support for sales team members in each region. He is a results-driven sales leader with more than 17 years of experience in territory management, strategic account development, and consultative selling within the pest control and specialty products industries. Got tongue twisted there. Throughout his career, he has built a reputation for driving revenue growth, developing long-term customer partnerships, and helping organizations expand market share through relationship-based sales strategies. He has delivered hundreds of hours of CEU and professional development training and has spoken at numerous industry conferences. Mike, the floor is yours.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Chris, and thank you to Veseris for allowing us to do this, and I look forward to it. I look forward to all the questions at the end. If there's anything I can help you with, I'm here for you. As she said, I've been with Nisus now for over 7 years, and I've gone from the southeast all the way to now all the way up the coast into the Eastern Division. So I've got to talk to a bunch of different people, different areas, and I'd like to say welcome to our pest professionals above the border. And if there's ever anything Nisus can do to help you guys with any of your training opportunities or anything in the future, please feel free to reach out. You see my contacts are on there. Email's always great. Cell phones, text messages, whatever makes it easier for you. But I always like to start these talks by, if you read the bottom of the slide, the more knowledge we gather about the pests we control and the insecticides we use, the more professional we appear and the more confidence our customers have in us. That is a statement that is just blanketed out throughout our entire industry, but especially coming from Nisus, we do believe that. We believe in training. We believe in giving you all the knowledge, not just the material to take care of the stuff, but knowing what we're looking at, what we're going for, and what benefits we have by taking care of stuff. It's not always just spray and pray. Sometimes it's the IPM approach of finding those locations and how can we keep things from coming in. Why do we have all this moisture? Where is the moisture coming from? What's breeding in that? All the way from sanitation, biosanitation, all the way through pest control and the insecticides levels of the industry. We try to get in that and give those customers that confidence that not only do we know why they're getting in, how they're getting in, but how we can keep them outside and how we can take care of them. You guys, you girls, you are the experts. Never let your customer take that away from you. That's what we do every day, is we are the pest professional. We're the last line of defense. They can't call someone else that's above pest control. Once it gets to us, we have to find the answers, become that scientist, become that detective, and figure out and make them feel safe in their own environments, whether it's commercial, multifamily, whether it's residential. Make them feel safe, but the main thing is make it clean, make them feel healthy. Breathing in a lot of these pathogens and stuff that are coming out of this, out of these areas of infestation is just not good. It's not good for anyone. So don't let that customer take that away. Remember, you're the expert. If you don't have the answer, no one has every answer. You could get it for them, get them the right stuff, get them going in the right direction, because without you, all they have is the internet. And sometimes the internet is a little crazy. So We're going to talk about roaches. We're going to tell 85% roaches, and we're going to talk a little bit about small flies. The small flies have really taken over and really moving into these areas because there's not very much you can do for them in certain situations because of how they breed and where they come from and how fast they breed. So knowing that roaches and flies are going to be very, very close when how they interact as far as with your consumer. So we're going to talk really about kind of what to identify and A, not cause more problems, but B, make sure we have the right solution. So we're going to work our way outside. We're going to start on the inside of either a restaurant or a commercial facility or even residential, and we're going to move our way out. So when we think of what cockroaches and the health issues that they have, look where it's funny. I always think of like a cat, where how a cat cleans itself constantly. Well, so do these roaches, but yet they're cleaning themselves that are dirty and they're getting that into them. So they're not clean at all, even though they do groom quite frequently to keep their antenna clean and their legs and everything clean. So, but they're breeding and they're feeding in these unsanitary conditions. So as they come out at night, when everyone's at home asleep, they'll come out, and the areas that they walk on causes just passing all this nasty bacterias around as they contaminate all the areas that the next day are going to come in, and they're going to start in commercial settings. They're going to start prepping on that. In residential areas, that the kids are going to be touching those counters and stuff, and cooking on them and moving things around on them. So we want to keep those as clean as possible, but keeping these problems outside is always our first thing that we want to do. So cleaning is valuable, but there's no reason to keep cleaning if everything's going to continually get contaminated. So sometimes we got to keep the horse in front of the carriage, and we got to make sure that we're taking care of that. So things that are cleaned earlier can be contaminated later. So keep that in mind when we're going through this journey together. We probably, I know that we take a lot of the health issues or the health part of our industry for granted sometimes. We don't even talk much about it. When you think of all the different types of things that omit from the feces of a roach, or flies landing on food, or flies landing in your drinks and stuff like that, there's a lot of things that can be caused. Salmonella is a big one, cholera, dysentery, things that E. coli that make you sick. And you might just think you ate Taco Bell or something, or you ate I had a certain food last night. Now that it could be something else. It not necessarily means that food caused that issue. Something was on the food, or it was made in an area that wasn't the cleanest. So keep that in mind, that that's not always just that type of food when you eat it. It can be moved around through roaches, through flies. Obviously rodents pass a lot of pathogens by too. But like areas that you see here, you see the common floor drain right there. It's easy to get to that floor drain. You see it, but a lot of your flies and roaches, or especially flies, are actually probably living in that tube up there. So turning a can upside down, or turning the straw and moving it up into that area is actually more beneficial sometimes than even going down into the drains, because the drains get treated, they're wet, they're moving water, maybe they're flushing them through, so you might not even be there. So you got to be a scientist at all time and a detective and figure out kind of what other areas there are. So adding a disinfecting service isn't always the worst thing. Sometimes it's best to clean and kill. So we have to get rid of the bugs, but we have to keep the areas clean while we're doing that. Obviously, there's a lot of money in cockroaches. People don't like them. They consider them gross. Spiders, cockroaches, flies, all these are just those gross insects. Of course, rats and rodents and stuff are bad too. But having customer education is key. It's okay to talk to your customer and let them know, hey, this is what we're seeing and this is why. When I go into a lot of commercial kitchens and I always see things on the floor, the question is like, well, what are you telling your customer, or what is your customer doing in order to help work with you? In the industry, there's three things involved. There's you, the professional, sits in CEU classes. You get a lot of training. You get to see stuff hands-on. You might read about stuff. And then you got your customer who doesn't really do anything. They just go on the internet and Google it, or now AI it, and get that information. And sometimes that information might not be accurate. And then you've got the pest. And the pest is what you're both trying to get rid of Just the question is who's on whose team. If it's you and the customer versus the pest, your success rate's going to be much higher. So customer education is key. If it's the customer and the pest versus you, they just want you, well, just get rid of them. It's not that simple. If you got branches growing over your house and you got rodents running around, and you got carpenter ants, or you got roaches running throughout the attic, you're offering that line of transportation for them to get there. So communication, customer education, moving with them, talking to them, letting them know. A lot of times what we see and what I see a lot, and I talk a lot about it when I do a lot of commercial talks, is that what's your biggest obstacle? 99.9% of you is probably thinking sanitation, right? Well, they don't ever mop at night. They don't clean the floors. Well, just keep in mind that when you're washing a floor with just water and maybe some soap, you're creating a moisture level on top of the tile and down into the drains. And in those areas, even in residential, they have stoves, they have ice makers, they have refrigerators, all providing heat. So you've put water down and now you're adding heat to it with those areas, and you're actually speeding up and exciting those flies and those roaches to move through those maturation process much faster. So if we're making a big water mess and we're heating it up, now we're actually creating a problem. So sometimes it's not about let's just mop the floor and get rid of it. Let's sweep the food up. Now we have to take products out and strategically put things around in order to control those areas of concern. Obviously, strong commitment to sanitation is key. Doing it right is even better. So occupy any crevice that they can feed on. Just about any food source. A roach will eat anything. It'll eat it. It'll eat its neighbor. It will eat its own feces. It will eat anything that it can get in anything it can have to survive. They are survivors. The health aspect of it, a lot of times in our industry, we kind of see that race to the bottom. Well, they'll do it for 150. I'll do it for 125. I got 100 over here, 50 over here. It's a reverse auction. It only benefits the customer. But just because you pay somebody, I'm doing it, they're doing it for 150. Why do you want 200? Well, because I'm here, because you want me here, because 150 wasn't getting rid of the problem. Cheapest price isn't always the best key, but focus on that health aspect of it. Disease transmission, customers coming into a facility and they see roaches or they see rodents or they see flies. I perceive that as this place is not the cleanly. They don't push their money and their time to being clean. They push their time and money just to getting customers in and out, and probably not going to be a really good customer at the end of the day, because if you're not working together, you're working against each other, and it has to be a two-person. You have to be on the same team. So clear communication is obviously key, and knowing a pre-program of how they're going to react and when you're going to follow up. Like, what do you want to see from us? Because we got to charge for this. So my explanation of a callbacks is usually just a lack of communication, or it's the improper expectation up front. Letting them know what we're going to do. Like if you have ants running all over a countertop and you tell the customer, yeah, I'll get rid of these ants today, you're probably going to not set the right expectation. My goal is to say my job is to show you a reduction in the ant population. Can I get rid of them? Yeah, I can stomp them with my finger. I can spray Windex on them. A customer can kill ants very easily. The question is why do they keep returning? Are we feeding them? The pheromone trails are coming there? They know there's a line here that's got food to it. So showing them that we're going to show you a reduction because we got to get back to the colony and we got to eliminate. So definitely leaving that right expectation up front is key, and getting them on board. Obviously, moisture is huge in those areas. Even in residential areas, people spill water underneath and it rolls underneath the fridge, or they've got grout that's got moisture building up in it. Concrete's a very porous thing, so it's gonna stay wet, and now you're providing a water source for them. And then if you have a little bit of food, say some crumbs underneath a toaster oven or a microwave, or it's falling under the floor, and your teenager just kicks it under there and it's like, I ain't cleaning that up. It's what we did in college. It needs to be cleaned up because we're just providing food. And when you're dealing with a baiting process, baits are only as valuable as the actual insect or rodent or mammal actually ingesting it. If I can't get you to eat it, I can't get you to die from it. So I need to not create food competition. I need to create a one type food source for you that you can go to and you'll eat that, because there's not really anything else. There's tons of roach baits in the industry, and they all are different. I mean, they have different active ingredients, but the main thing is look at those inerts, look at those other ingredients. What are they? Are they protein based? Are they carbohydrate based? Why is something going to eat this? If I'm a roach and I'm eating hamburgers and you're throwing carbs at me, maybe I eat them, maybe I don't. It's like, what are we dealing with that they have? And then you just find manufacturers or go through distributors and you say, hey, what are the actual other ingredients that's going to cause something to eat this if I'm dealing with these products as the actual competition that I'm trying to compete with? So being ahead of the roach, being smarter than the roach. I always tell people, you got to be 10% smarter than what you're dealing with. 10% smarter to sell it, 10% smarter to do it, or you're going to lose. So moisture, food harborage, you got to remove one of them in order to eliminate those areas. We talked about temperature. Drains are huge. And the problem with drains is, where do they go? Are they going to septic systems for roaches and small flies, like especially your forward flies? A lot of those are coming out of the septic systems. If you have the sewer system, you might see a lot of American cockroaches. They're probably coming from that drain that goes down into that sewer system, because that's where American cockroaches like to live. Drains are hard to get a lot of product down into. Are they a 1.5 inch drain, a 4 inch drain? What product are we foaming down in there? How far is it going? What does it do once it splits off? Are there cracked pipes, not crack pipes, but cracked pipes underneath the ground that could be causing things to get in that, to be able to penetrate that way? Is it a plumbing issue? Pest control always loses against plumbing. We have to fix a problem before we actually get the solution to actually getting rid of the problem, because if it keeps entering and then we'll never get control, and we just either hurt the company name. We get blasted on social media, on Yelp, on Google reviews and all that stuff, and it's just bad image. So making sure you're being that full detective and getting underneath all those areas and getting as low as you can and finding areas that they're coming from is key when you're looking at drains. Adults, usually they're finding your food sources. A lot of your eggs, your nymphs, they're usually going to be closer to kind of like a central area. So how big are they? What are you noticing when you're looking at these cockroaches? Do I see a lot of nymphs? Do I see a lot of adults? Do I see a mixture of both? Maybe it's a very healthy population that's been breeding there for a long time, because they breed very fast, and now they're moving around and they're having to compete for food. And the more food source they have, that feeds a large population. So it'll just continue to grow, and they become what we say is neophobic, which means they're scared of new things. Well, the more comfortable they get, I've seen bed bugs walking around on people's walls in the middle of a living room, and they're very neophobic. So same thing with these roaches. It's neither neophobic, but they will move out and around, and once they get comfortable, because it's like, you're not killing me anyway, what am I worried about? I'm hungry. So they're going to go find that food as well. And of course, time sometimes is not our best friend. It's not our best friend in life, so therefore it's not our best friend at work. We have a certain schedule we have to adhere to, so we have to get in, we have to solve the problem very quickly sometimes in order to move on to the next facility or the next home, in order to help them take care of their problems. So initial services should be weekly when infestations are severe, and over time you gradually move that back. But you got to keep that in mind. If maybe you're a sales technician and you do more sales, knowing that this is going to take a little bit more time than just me coming in, throwing some stuff out and rolling out. No, we have to kind of get in there, and we're going to take our time, and we're going to try to get rid of these roaches. And then once we get rid of the roaches, to start the clean out. So always have that in your arsenal. Is like, now we need to start to do a cleaning process to move a lot of this pheromone that they're communicating with, and move a lot of that stuff out. Different roaches for different areas. I'm not super familiar with all the Canadian roaches out there. American roaches are one of they're the largest. They're the ones we see the most coming from the sewer areas coming up. They can have a lot of egg to adult stage. It can move through about 600 days. They produce a lot of capsules, so they're going to move a lot of them around. And usually when you see one, there's not just one. My wife always gets freaked out because she says that they made the biggest roach have the biggest wings. So she says, I don't understand why they can fly, but they can fly. So they can fly in at night to infest areas as well. They can come out of trees. They can come out of different areas and penetrate homes, residential as well as commercial, through that way. We got the dark cockroach, the oriental cockroaches we see, cracks, exterior cracks, voids, crevices, much darker. Has the adult female, as you can see. The adult male's got a little bit of a mahogany look to it. And then the Ethika and the egg sac, however you say it, and everyone says it different, but the egg sac is quite large as well as they're moving through the different stages of life. So Germans got the big stripe on the pronotum. Very, very easy to identify, especially if they're indoors. If I get a phone call and I'm like, I got German roaches outside, we're probably dealing with more of the Asian cockroach, where it'll actually it looks very similar. It's got the same two stripes on the pronotum, but they do live more outside, leafy areas, thatch areas, stuff like that is more what they are. But the Germans are, they love to stay inside. They love to stay near food, warmth. A lot of times we'll come in, we'll flush out a lot of the nymphs, we'll kill a lot of the adults. 6 weeks later, 8 weeks later, we got a new infestation because we didn't find any of the females that are carrying those Ethikas. Your Americans, your Orientals, they'll drop those Ethikas. They'll hide them. They'll put them underneath something and they'll just leave them. They got to fend for themselves. Whereas the German roach will carry that through its entire gestation period, leave it stuck behind it, and carry it around. So whenever it's time to let those out and let them go, here they come. They don't believe in a lot of the same things we believe in, and they can mass produce throughout their families as well and produce more and start the infestation all over again. So sometimes we got control, and then all of a sudden we lose control. The brown banded cockroach. We also have the smoky browns. A lot of times you're going to see those up high, maybe in the attics or up in drop ceilings. You'll find them underneath cabinets. I know your smoky browns. You'll find a lot of those up in the attic areas. So it's okay to go up there and do per label, do a treatment up there to help keep them from coming down into the house and causing any issues down there. This is what we talk about a lot. We do offer, not all our products are fully regulated over the border, over the northern border. But we do have a few that I want to, one specific I'm going to talk about. But just keep in mind that a lot of times when you're talking to especially a restaurant area or a commercial setting, their cleaning budgets are going to be much higher than their pest control budgets. They're going to think, because when that inspector comes in to do an inspection and they get their grade or their letter or their number or whatever they get, cleanliness is really, really big on their list. So they're going to have a much larger budget for that. So cleaning drains and cleaning underneath materials and stoves and refrigerators and stuff like that is key to keeping these problems down and to keeping that filth and stuff from growing in there. So there's different types of people. There's people that are clean and there's insect clean. Cockroaches require very little food. So sometimes it's, if you ever watch that show The Bear, where he's scrubbing everything with a toothbrush, very similar to something like that, where you don't have to get that crazy, but knowing that they don't require much. So finding food for them is very simple. Castor wheels on the bottom of equipment. It's very, very tough to clean, but that's got enough food on it that they can actually eat on that. So by adding a biosanitation or a sanitation aspect to your protocol or your IPM, offers that health aspect, but also offers you a longer term customer. You've got control. Now you've got it clean. Now it's more of a maintenance account. Most time when we sell a pest control account, we sell it on that coming in, doing that first big initial service. We're treating everything. We're putting foaming, we're dusting, we're baiting, we're doing all this different work. Your company at best might just break even if you price it just right. The goal is to get from that actual pest part to the maintenance part. Once we get from pest control to maintenance, now we just come in. A lot of your residential homes are probably a lot of maintenance. You do a lot of outside stuff, knock spider webs down, throw products around the home. Maybe you do a 3 up, 3 out, but you're trying to treat everything outside because you've done your job and you moved everything outside. We want to keep stuff. Bugs live outside. There's no way we can stop that. It's where they live. We built their house in theirs. They didn't build one in ours. So we have to keep them outside, and doing those outside services is your way of showing that, look, this is a maintenance account. I'm there 20, maybe 10, 15, 20 minutes, depending on the size of the structure, knocking down webs and throwing out baits will help. And now I don't have to worry about them going inside and doing a lot of work in there. That's as needed. COVID kind of changed a lot in pest control, where we did a lot more outside service, and we learned that we can do this from outside and not spraying down baseboards and stuff like that. Well, now it's just an outside service. So as we move outside, obviously we want to get them before they get in. IPM is key on identification and monitoring and all the different steps of the IPM process and education and all of that. But keeping them outside is key. When I worked in pest control, the winter times were slow. It's cold. Bugs usually slow down. They go dormant. And we would spend a little bit more time maybe doing like foaming, take some foam and foaming around entry points that we've noticed throughout the year, or talking with our customers. Maybe it's time, we got flies coming in, but we like our windows open in the spring. Okay, well, let's put some screens up there to keep things from coming in. Managing all those structures. Let's cut these trees off. Most trees, like especially the ones with a lot of like hard oaks, they'll lose a lot of those leaves. Let's cut these branches back and let's move them off the house. Let's cut these bushes back and move them off the house. That way we're not having that highway for insects to enter the home. Like I said earlier, with the foam and the screens, is picking up on that stuff. Your job is not only to get rid of the pest problem, but it's to educate that customer and say, hey, look, let's work together here. Can I get you to do, put maybe door sweeps in a commercial setting, or maybe foaming some of these areas, or putting screeners or cutting back? That's early detection stuff. That's going into the spring or summer when those bugs get really active. Let's get in there and let's take care of this problem now. That way, when we go into the spring, it's an outside problem, not an inside problem. We don't want termites. We don't want pests. We don't want like mammals, or like anything from rats to raccoons, to maybe I've been in many houses with raccoons, many houses with possums. They get up in those attics, and you got to imagine once an animal gets into someone's attic, it's comfortable. It's warm there. Now I got to find water, food, water, harborage. Right now I got to find water. I got to find food. If I find those three things, there's no reason for me to leave. Birds, bats, the same thing. Squirrels, they enter those homes. They're happy. I'm a squirrel. I'm gonna go out. I'm gonna go lose 90% of the nuts I find, and then I'm gonna come back to the attic and go out tomorrow and forget where I put them. So very simple with those kind of things is identification and looking through these structures and finding these areas. So definitely want to protect our people from different things, but injury, annoyance, bugs can be considered, like flies, as gross as they are, they're more of a nuisance pest. They fly around, people swat, knocking down wasp nests and stuff like that is key, because we don't want to see this. We don't want to see this going into next year. So we're kind of getting into that kind of fall area, going into winter. So we're going to have some months to where the pest problem is going to slow down. Now it's time to come in and do other things as well. So back in the history of pests, I'm not going to go deep into this. It's mainly just, heavy reliance on insecticides, DDT, chlordane for termites. We just had all these malathion, had all these products that we would just blow out, and it was all about constant spraying. If you notice, if you have an older company, or you work for an older company, or you see older companies and they say pest exterminate, the exterminator or extermination or exterminators, those are going to be considered a lot more of your older pest control companies. Because back then we did exterminate. Now with EPA regulations and all the different rules and stuff that they have, now we're pest control, pest solutions, pest specialists. We're more on that IPM approach. We're spray and pray back then. Now we have to do the IPM approach, to where it's a little slower process than it was just blow DDT everywhere and watch these bugs just run away. Now we're doing that inspection. We identify what the problem is. We read the labels. We know this is labeled for this, but it has to be done this way. We're monitoring the glue boards and putting them in specific locations that we know we're going to catch something, putting stuff into action. And then of course evaluating the control that we're getting, or or where we're at and moving forward with that thing and with that actual in mind, an IPM approach in mind. So food, harborage, water, climate. Obviously, those four things are what we got to get rid of. We got to get rid of at least one of them in order to get rid of that. It's like when fungus grows on wood, it needs the dead spores in the fiber of the wood, but it also needs the moisture to actually help it to feed it as it's feeding on the wood. So getting rid of one of those will help create with that kind of thing. Same when it comes to cockroaches and flies and everything. Why are we feeding them? Why are we creating a water barrier or a water area and warmth and giving it everything they would ever need in order to survive? Here's some more into the IPM approach: the inspection, identification, treatment by a professional. There's people out there that do with a DIY customer that does it themselves. They're just spraying and praying. They're either looking online and they get ideas. ChatGPT tells them to do what they tells them to do, but professionals are the reasons that they're the ones that get control of the stuff, and that is you. You are that professional. So work with your customer and let them know what you're doing and why you're doing it, and show them that you know what you're talking about. People call me about powder post beetles all the time. And like the first thing I want to know is, well, what kind of beetle is it? Like I need to know what we're dealing with. I need to be smarter than the insect at hand. So tell me what we're dealing with, and I'll help you become that professional for your customer in order to get control and stuff like that. Communication, we talked about. Sanitation is key. A lot of times we'll see dumpsters outside, and then we pull up there. There's bags all over the ground. The dumpsters are completely full. Stuff's falling out. Not to mention it's leaking in the dumpsters. There's just it's a filth tray out there. The question I would have, especially in a commercial setting, is, hey, when does your trash company come? Number one, you need another trash can, or they need to come more often. And number two, when do they come? They come on Tuesdays. Well, I want to be there right after they dump, and let's treat this dumpster. Let's foam this dumpster. That way we can actually get stuff before it goes in. So when the roaches run in there to eat all that food that just got put in there, you're going to get a better result in killing them outside. Because the goal, of course, if I'm outside eating and all of a sudden the temperature goes from 85 degrees to 45 degrees, I'm going to start looking for something a little more warm. I'm already full now. I need to go take a nap. So I'm going to go inside there. So knowing what you're doing, managing those expectations, telling your customer why we're doing what we're doing is important. Like people say, I'm not paying unless you're spraying. How many times a lot of times back in the day, people used to pull those long hoses off those trucks and they would spray with those. Well, now we've gone to a more of a less big mechanical into a smaller. Maybe we're using the power sprayers or the battery power sprayers, or we're not coming inside and we're not spraying the baseboards anymore, because bugs don't live in baseboards. Bugs just come in from outside. So if we can keep them outside, then we don't need that issue. But there's a lot of new technology on the market. I was at dinner with a guy last night, and he was talking about a lot of this AI and how it's tracking these phone calls and how it's really learning what people are doing. And we can learn from that, and we know what the customers are wanting. So if that's an option in your area, it's a really cool thing to look into. So charge money for inspections. I don't believe in giving anything away for free, because once somebody gets something for free, they want everything for free. So chemicals always cheaper than labor, but using it correctly is also very important. So keep that in mind. Manage your expectations. Like I said, there's a lot of new cool stuff that's out there to help manage that. Google is not our best friend when it comes to what we're doing in the industry, because there's a lot of positive and negative connotation out there. So set clear goals, give them an idea of what you're going to do, let them know how we're going to do it, why we're going to do it, and what result they should expect to see. Don't overpromise and underdeliver. Always underpromise and overdeliver. So always give them that. You're going to still see some areas of and this is why. And this is what we're going to do going forward. Be careful with your sensitive areas. I've had many situations where I'm out there, whether it's koi ponds or they have animals or they have chickens, and we're putting out products that might be a little enticing for an animal to want to go take care of it or go eat it. I was at a house in Atlanta one time spraying the exterior, and the lady comes out the back door and says, "Please don't spray the plants." My daughter comes out and chews on the leaves, and I didn't ask; it was not my business. But it freaked me out because I didn't know if I sprayed the leaves or not. I'm just I'm just in the zone. I'm doing my 3 up, my 3 out. I'm going around the structure. So I immediately stopped and went to a different protocol and started putting Niban around the home as opposed to spraying. So it was just a different idea for me. But again, I didn't know if I'd already sprayed or not. So keep in mind, talk to your customers. Are there any sensitive areas around your home that I need to be aware of? Areas, we're not using products at a high rate, but I don't want to get anything like maybe you have fruited plants out here, or maybe you have an area that runs into a pond or something like that. Something I don't see. There's a lot of foliage around and I don't see it. So just be careful, careful with phytotoxicity, burning leaves up. Some products are systemic. They will pull through the plant and kill a lot of those aphids, but some are not. So make sure you know read that label, know as much about your products as you can. Every manufacturer has labels out there. There's label software. There's so many different things. And it's great read for when you have some time to yourself. So keep that in mind. Have yourself some people have mental checklists, some people have physical checklists, some people's software has checklists on it. What am I seeing? Where am I seeing it? What are the conducive conditions? What could be done to help make this or to mechanically fix this situation? Or, what can I offer to the homeowner to help them get rid of this? Like, for example, mosquitoes. We know we got to dump over water basins and stuff like that. That's definitely a key when it comes to that control, but customers can do that. We do it while we're there, but you helping throughout the remaining 30 days or 21 days or how often we come will definitely help with things like that. And the same with food sources. What am I seeing? What am I competing with? I need to know those kind of different things. So obviously knowing construction types is big, especially when you're dealing with termites and stuff like that, different types of construction, plumbing, sewage systems, electrical. Roaches love electrical. They love the wiring. They love everything about it. So keep that in mind. Sometimes they might be coming from behind those areas. But if they usually are coming from those areas at a high rate, you'll see a lot of rub marks and stuff like that, coming from those. Same with rodents, with the sebum and everything. You'll see those areas of concern and know that this is you got a bad problem here. You got grease all over your walls. The roaches are getting in the grease. They're running through things. They're leaving trails. I know where they're coming from, but I know that this is a hot area that I need to pay attention from. I always say if you got spider webs, you got a bug somewhere. A lot of times spider webs will build around lights, because the insects at night fly up to them. So look around the home, wood on the ground, leaky gutters, a lot of thatch or a lot of leaf debris. All these areas are high concern. So keep that in mind when you're on your checklist and writing these things down. This is a Niban label. Niban is a product we do have up in Canada, and it's a very safe product to use. It is orthoboric acid. It's at 5%. There's another one that's at 10%. The difference is what's more important about a bait, that 5% kills it or 10% kills it, because if 5% kills it, 10% is definitely going to kill it. But the main thing is what is the other things? It's more attractant. More attractant is more important. So I want to know that I put these two products out. Which one is it going to eat? It's going to be more attractive, this one, because it's got 95% more attractant, where the other one has 90%. So both are going to kill. So either way, you're going to get a death. But the main thing is I need it to eat. I need it to make sure that it eats it. Because if it can stay outside and eat, I don't need it to go in. We push what we call pre-baiting for hibernating, which is what's coming up. It's probably getting really close in your areas, where the temperature's starting to drop at night. We like to put stuff out now so they can take it back and store it. Like, think of ants that like to store stuff in the areas of the mounds or underneath the ground. Roaches are coming and they're storing up food because they're going to have to try to survive through the winter. Well, why don't they let them take Niban back instead of taking back somebody's chocolate chip cookie? They're going to get a better result for that. And then over the winter, when they break into that extra supply, now we're killing insects. And then going into the spring or getting into the summer, we don't have as much of an infestation because we've already took care of them, a lot of that. So reading labels is key. Niban's got a pretty reasonable label to read. It's not 20 pages like some of our products, but putting out as much as required. 2 to 4 pounds, 1,000 square feet, but you can use less. Nivan isn't going to be something you're going to do as a barrier application. It's not a insecticidal granule, it's a granular bait. So knowing those two differences is key, where one has to be a continuous band around the home, whereas the other one is wood piles, water areas like downspouts, like condensation lines off air conditioning units, stuff like that. It's very key to make sure that we're putting it where we need to put it. That way we're not A, wasting product, and number two, we don't need to over apply. We want to make sure we're applying, according to label. A lot of different things when you're talking insecticidal granule versus a granular bait. One of them is going to handle better on the sunlight. One's going to handle better in the rain. One's going to get wet and it's just going to kind of soak into the ground, where the other one's going to be able, like in most your borates, which we're the borate company, Bore Care, Tim Bore, we have a lot of borate products, is that it loves moisture. So when the water hits it, it's just not soaking it away. So you'll have a longer application time as opposed to a shorter one. What does it absorb into the materials? Like I said earlier, ground cover. Can we get it down into that thatch? Can we get it down into that pine straw, that mulch, or whatever product they're using at that time? So are people going to come in and are you going to be adding more mulch this year? Are you going to be adding more pine straw this year? We are. Well, we want to get out there. Let's pull this back. Let's put some product out. Let's push it. And then when you cover it up, now we have it protected. So that could actually have it last a lot longer, as opposed to something that's just completely exposed. So you got to do what you can. Here's a granular bait like Nivan, longer lasting, higher attractant, easy to train on. It's a 2-foot band. It's not a 5 to 10 foot band. So it's easy to apply. We have shaker bottles that we have that you just basically shake it side to side, and it does a nice even 2-foot band. So you don't have to go out and buy a lot of heavy equipment that you need. Also, it's safe around pollinators. It's not going to treat any of your pollinating plants that maybe that got the nectar in it, that your carpenter bees or your bumblebees or whatever honeybees are feeding off of. We're keeping it down to where the insects are. Insects are usually going to be lower. If you got trees, you can put it around trees to bring insects out of the trees to come down and eat. So a lot of options when it comes to products like a granular bait that are a lot safer. So this is our 4-pound shaker that you might be familiar with. It's a green product. It's OMRI certified. Look it up. It's an organic label that we have for this exact product. Safe to use around just about anything. I get asked about chickens a lot with this product. If a chicken were to eat it, it's not going to kill the chicken. But if a chicken eats it and the chicken dies, maybe from something else, then you're going to get blamed for killing the chicken. So most time when we're dealing with chickens, we're looking for something like darkling beetles, and we have other products that are better for that. So I don't recommend using this if you got free range chickens. It is a corn cob based product. Chickens tend to love corn, so they're just going to go over there and just peck it all away. So it's not really good for that. But as far as animals, dogs, cats, it's very, very, very low toxicity. So you're not going to see any issues. If anything, they might get sick if they eat a lot of it. But we're not putting out a lot, so we're being safe with that. If you have rodent issues running around structures and you're noticing snails or slugs or crickets or something, or ants or roaches or so whatever is getting into those bait boxes, you could put this around those bait boxes to keep those other insects out. For some reason, rats sometimes get a little picky and they like clean areas. So it comes in a 40, a 10. The 10's resealable, and of course the 4-pound shaker. Like I told you, least toxic technology, all natural ingredients. It's corn cob based, and it comes in recycled packaging, so you can recycle. This is kind of comparing a product like an active ingredient insecticidal granule, like a bifenthrin product based product. That's the active in some products. You notice it has to be a continuous band. It's got to be wider. Doesn't handle the conditions very well. And a lot of times you're just going to kill, especially with like social insects, you're going to kill a lot of your foragers. You're not necessarily going to get it back to the colony in order to kill the brood or the colony as a whole. Niban is a lot less. They can bring it back. It's corn, like I said, it's corn cob, so it holds up. A lot of times they'll just get the oil off of it and get rid of it out the mound. They won't even eat it. So ants, that is. But roaches will definitely eat it because it's got that food type feel, and with that corn cob that they like. And then we have a lot of attractants on it because we want it to be successful. We want things to eat it. In the bottom right, you'll notice we have a customers who are showing their custom logo shakers. We do those. They're no charge. You put your logo on an IBAN. It's a 4-pound shaker, just like we have. It's refillable. You're not supposed to refill the actual, if you buy a box of the shakers, you're not supposed to refill them. They are not considered service containers, whereas the refillable ones that we don't charge for that have your logo on it are refillable, and you can refill them as many times as you need. 2 per truck, takes less footprint in your truck, which is important, but also offers you a really nice way to put them out. This is just some of the kind of a little bit about borates. It's number 5 element. It's in just about everything. It's been used for hundreds of years. If you wear soft contacts, you put it in your eyes. If you wash clothes with Tide or maybe borax or a lot of different things out there, you actually end up, your body needs boron. Here's a lot of your moisture zones. I'm kind of flip through this quick because I want to see if we get any questions. Here's some areas on the exterior of a home with downspouts, water areas where we're seeing a lot of the drippage or the condensation that's feeding them water. There's harborage areas down low where the soil is nice and moist. There's an entry point underneath, or they found an entry point into a home. Downspouts, as you can see, wood piles right up against the house, not a good thing. Put something around that. Trash cans on the exterior home. Insects don't need much to fit through areas. Sealing up, like I said earlier, this is probably an old product, but there's any caulk will work just to keep things outside. We don't want our insects to come in. The way it works, the way a product like Niban will work is it gets, when they eat it and they ingest it, it cuts off their energy supply. So they don't have energy to go do the carbs that they think they're eating. They don't have the energy and they just die. They just basically just die down and they stop moving. And a lot of times your roaches, you'll see them come into a structure. They might pass through a liquid barrier and they're not dead by the door. They're actually dead in another room or something. And that's probably where the roach got safe, felt comfortable, was hidden, and it's starting to clean itself. And that's why it died in that area as opposed to dying by the front door. So it's just wherever they groom and they get that in. Whereas this product, they're already eating it. It's already getting in their body. They're losing energy. They have no reason to come inside. Like I said, I'm not going to get too big into all this. Be careful, of course, around water areas. It's safe to use around the structure, safe to use, but you don't want to put it near any aquatic life or anything like that. This is a spreader as opposed to the shaker. Your call on what you use. I recommend the shaker just because there's a little less chance. If it does get broke, we can provide new ones. Whereas the spreader gets broke. Now you gotta do that. You gotta spend the money and everything on that. So this is after eating Niban. You see the roach kind of goes into a state of what is going on, and ultimately it will stop kicking. This is where I told you earlier, this is a product to the right that does not handle moisture very well, whereas Niban on the left, and that's in the same environment. We say up to 4 inches. As you can see, after 4 inches, it starts to die off. Once you get into that 6 to 8, you're going to lose a lot of its efficacy. You're going to lose a lot of the materials that are on it. So anything below 4 inches, you're safe. Once you get a heavy downpour or a long week of rain, it's gonna die off, and you're gonna need to add more. So just keep in mind, like I said earlier, at the end of the day, always remember, pesticide application is not the service. Your knowledge is the service. Your knowledge is what you're selling. The pesticides and this application is helping you to achieve that goal. So they're paying for your knowledge. You're giving them the pesticides for free. And that's one of our seasoned veterans. Harry Bryan was employee like number 6, I think, number 7. He's been with our company for over 30 years. And that's what he says. So would like to break down into maybe a Q&A part of this. So if you have any questions or something that you're experiencing or something that you'd like to talk about, we're definitely here to help with that.
Hey, Mike, thanks for presenting such great informative information. We'll now begin answering the questions submitted during the presentation. And remember, folks, you can still submit your questions through the questions icon located at the top of the screen. So getting us started, someone's asking, what are the limitations with Niban regarding children and pets?
So there are none. If you're talking about four-legged creatures or two-legged creatures, there aren't any. Like I said earlier, just don't put it out to like a chicken or something like that, where you're giving it what it likes to eat. A dog would have to usually, on average, have to eat its body weight in order to get sick. The chance of death is highly unlikely that it will die from it. Most of the time, it would just get sick. But if it's an 80-pound dog, that's 2 boxes. So you've put out way too much anyway. As far as kids don't. I have a dog and I use Nivan, and dog's never even gone to it. But kids, I don't. There's no restriction on that, and I don't ever really see kids messing with it. It's not something that they'd want to ingest. But what happens with boron is your body needs so much boron in a day, and as you ingest boron, it's one of the minerals that processes through your kidneys. So when your body takes out all the substance that it needs of boron, everything else you will urinate it out. So we make a product that you actually put in pools that is boron based, which is all in all a borate, which is what Nivan is. It's with boric acid, so it's a borate. Gets into your system, and you can get in the pool. If it gets in your eyes, it gets in your mouth. Whatever you don't need, you urinate out. Just don't do that in the pool. Same with this product. Whatever you don't need, you urinate. So it's extremely safe. It wouldn't have the OMRI, which is ONRI, OMRI certification, if it wasn't safe. So it is the highest organic certification that you can get. It's the only product we have that's OMRI certified as of this moment. But if you want more information, or if you want to really make your customer feel at home, go on their website and print out the OMRI certification, and you can hand that to your customer, and you will make them feel very safe. It's a great question.
Thanks, Mike. The next question that's come in is asking, how do you decide exactly where to place cockroach bait, and how close should placements be in a severe infestation?
Yeah, very similar to the way you do bait boxes. The higher the population, the more you're going to put out, but it also depends on what roach you're dealing with. If you're dealing with German roaches will forage greatly defined food, but you're competing a lot with food. So if there's a high area of lettuce and hamburgers and French fries and grease and all that in one area, and you put some cockroach bait out there, I'm going to bet you dollars of donuts they're probably not going to eat that cockroach bait. Maybe one will, and then that roach will die, and everybody's going to be like, well, I'm not eating that. That looks bad. But American roaches are a little different depending on what kind of bait you use. American cockroaches are very, very smart, to a point that they will literally come up to a roach bait and taste it. And if their mouth parts will warm up, or maybe it starts to cause a burn or something, they will actually not eat that bait and leave pheromones there to let the people know this is dangerous or this is unsafe. So yes, less is more, but more is more. So like putting out a big glob of roach bait is not the best activity. I would rather use drop. Of course, depending on what product you're using, read the label on how much you can put out in certain areas. But the first question is going to be, what am I competing with, and how much competition is there? Are we cleaning that competition up? And if so, now once we've got that part taken care of, we can come back with the roach bait and put it in those areas in order to them, and you'll have a larger success rate with doing that. Obviously, hidden places are very key because they are neophobic. Underneath a table that's got a small, like kind of U-shaped lip underneath it, they love to travel that. They have that stigmastasis where they want to be touched on the three sides, and they want to be really tight, and they want to feel safe. Putting stuff under there is very key, because a lot of times they're not using that as a food source. They're using it as a transportation source. So anywhere you're seeing any trails or like rub looking marks, like grease marks, I would highly try to get to those areas more than I would try to compete with food, because you're getting them when they're running out before they get to the food, or when they're leaving food, and you'll have a much higher success rate. It's a hard question to answer because every situation is going to be different. In a residential area, obviously hiding it is going to be more key, because there's a lot more maybe commotion, maybe it's American roaches or something German roaches like that, and they're hiding more. So underneath corners and cracks and crevices and areas is going to be a higher thing. But if you've got a lot of food in there, you're gonna struggle. Unfortunately, we have a product that's not approved in Canada. We are going to work on that the next year. That is actually something that when you put it out, it will actually get on the food source and it will dry and it doesn't have a taste or smell. And when a roach eats like a piece of lettuce and it's got it on it, that lettuce will actually kill them. Unfortunately, we don't have that yet. So really, baits are going to be your biggest user for roaches in those settings. But just know that wherever the food's at, they're probably not going to eat something that's new due to that neophobic mentality.
All right, Mike, the next question is asking is, can nibin be put on interior places like under cupboards and crevices, or is this mostly to be used on exterior only?
You can. It's labeled for attics as well. Cracks and crevices is big. I'm not super. If Niban FG is approved in Canada, that's going to be a better choice. FG is fine granule, so it actually is Niban dust. That would be a better choice for a crack and crevice. If it's not, then yes, you can still use it on the interior. It's not an exterior only. The reason we use it more exterior as opposed to Niban FG like we have in the States is because Niban FG probably wouldn't hold up as well outside because of how fine the powder is, whereas the granule holds up better in the weather conditions.
Okay, Mike, here's another question coming in that's asking, tell me some of your experience with drainage, whether it's pests inside the drain or it's a damaged drain, which is causing problems.
Yes, two types of drains: wet drains and dry drains. Dry drains are going to be your number one source for all your flies and most of your roaches. If there's not a lot of water blowing through that, it's just a bunch of gunk built up in there that maybe once a week they mop and they push the water down in there. You're going to be a lot more successful in those drains using a certain type of dust. That way, that dust will stay up for a long time. Less as you can use as much as you need down into those drains, and it will hold up longer as opposed to a wet drain like a sink or a kitchen, like a mop area or something where they're like a shower where the water is constantly moving through there. Those are going to, in a commercial setting, you would be better off using something what they call green traps, which are just one way where roaches and flies can't come up, only things can go down. And then using a biosanitation would be more beneficial for you as opposed to open drain like in a sink. And unfortunately, we have another product that's not approved that we're going to work on as well. That's a foam that you can actually foam down into the drain that does have an active ingredient in there, and then covering that drain so your forward flies can't leave, or having a customer not use this drain for, I say at least 30 minutes to let that set up. And then when roaches try to come up, it gets on them as a foam, or they eat the gunk, or the larva from the fly eats the gunk and it will actually kill them. Those are hard because it depends on what the scenario is. If it's a residential, you're going to have a less of a run. And what is it? If American roaches are coming out of your drains, you're probably hooked to a sewer system. And I would recommend maybe going outside and trying to locate where those areas are. And there's some things you can do for exterior for sewers. Now, every area is different with what you can treat with. But when it comes to drains, is it a wet drain? Is it a dry drain? Dust in dry drains, wet drains, more of a foam type material is going to be your best bet, or cleaning them with types of brushes and stuff like that to keep them clean going forward. But sometimes mop water isn't our best friend.
Okay, Mike, here's another question asking, when should I use bait instead of spraying, especially in a sensitive area like a food handling facility?
Well, definitely granular baits. They minimize a lot of off target exposure. So being able to do that will limit a lot of your liability when it comes to spraying with a customer's home, when it comes to bushes and stuff like that. But when you're spraying, you're kind of up and down, and it depends on like what is your overhang, how long is this product going to last? Does it have an encapsulation? Does it have something that's going to protect it from water? Whereas baits are more of a put them out, you can spread it, and you're letting things come to it. One requires passage, the liquid requires it to pass through it, whereas a bait is more of a gathering thing, and they feel like they're satisfied because they're eating instantly. A lot more when they say repellency versus non-repellency, that doesn't mean that a bug sees a product on the wall or on the ground and says, oh, I can't walk through that. Repellency just means that it will walk through it, but it's going to die. Whereas a non-repellent means that it can walk through it and go further and then groom. That's a difference of like a product like bifenthrin versus a product like Suspend. Two different products, two totally different kills. One's going to kill on contact and one's going to kill when they groom. Baiting is going to give you more of an exterior thing to keep stuff outside. So just because a roach passes through a liquid, so if you have roaches coming inside and you're doing a liquid treatment, yes, they're dead, but unfortunately, and this is kind of weird in our industry, a dead roach is sometimes almost as bad as a live roach because people don't want dead things in their home. So if I was going to concentrate on keeping things dead outside, I'm going to go more of a granular, which is what I do at my structure, is I do more of a granular approach to give it its food outside. And then you just go back where you were and eat that. Whereas a liquid, they're going to come more higher success rate of them coming inside and dying. Even though they're dead, they're still, customers will call and say, I have dead roaches in my house. So it depends on the application process that you're looking for. Some people do both. If you do both, please do Niban second. There's only really one product out there, active ingredient, that doesn't hurt Niban, and that would be fipronil. All your other products are going to actually make Niban a contact, like a different kill for gathering creatures like an ant. We want it to stay at the bait form. So if you're going to use a product like a Suspend or a Demand or something like that, spray that first, Niban second. So now you're getting your gatherings and you're getting anything that's passing through as well. It's a good question.
All right, so we're just a little after the top of the hour, and the good news is, Mike, is you were able to answer all the questions that came through. So with that, I just want to say thanks for attending today's webinar. Later today, you will receive a follow-up email with a short survey and the recording of today's session. We would appreciate you sharing your feedback. So on behalf of our speaker and Veseris, thank you for spending your time with us today. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks, Mike. Have a good one yourself.
Thank you.